Ladies, imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a cliff, the wind tugging at your hair, the ground beneath you trembling. Not from fear, but from something deeper, something alive, inside you that's been quiet for too long. That's how it felt for Clara Hensley, a 72-year-old librarian from Boise, Idaho, who thought her best days were behind her. But one rainy Tuesday, she stumbled across a secret that changed everything. By the end of this story, you'll know what she discovered and how it could save you from losing the one thing every woman fears as she ages: the freedom to move. Stay with me till the end. And by the way, drop a comment below. What does freedom of movement mean to you? I read every response. First, rhythm, the spark in her bones. Clara was never one to complain. Even when her knees creaked like the old floorboards in the library, where she'd worked for 40 years, she just gritted her teeth and kept shelving books. But that day, April 14th, 2025, everything changed. She was at the front desk, flipping through a copy of Scientific American Dash, when she stumbled on an article. Scientists at Johns Hopkins University had found that a deficiency in certain nutrients could literally switch off muscles and bones as you. It was like a bolt of lightning. Clara suddenly realized her fatigue, the pain in her legs, even the way she'd tripped last week. It wasn't just aging. It was a signal. Why does this matter to you? Your legs aren't just how you get around. They're your ticket to independence. According to the National Institute on Aging, 30% of older adults fall every year, and half of those falls end in injuries that steal freedom. Clara knew she was on the edge. Her legs were weakening, and if she did nothing, she could become one of those who spend their days in a chair, staring out the window. But the article hinted at a solution. 3 elements that could bring her legs back to life. The first, calcium with vitamin D, the spark that ignites bones. How does it work? Calcium is the bricks your bones are built from, and vitamin D is the mortar that holds them together. Without D, calcium just passes through your body like rain through a sieve. A 2023 study in the Journal of Bone and Mineral Research showed that 40% of women over 60 have a vitamin D deficiency, doubling their risk of fractures. Clara remembered how her grandmother broke her hip at 80 and never walked again. That thought stabbed her heart like a cold needle. Signs you might be lacking. Your legs ache like after a long hike, even if you've barely walked a block. Your knees or hips crunch like dry twigs. You feel unsteady, as if the floor is swaying beneath you. Sometimes you wake up with a heaviness in your bones you can't explain. Clara saw herself in every symptom. She rarely got sunlight. Boise isn't California, and in winter, she barely left the house. Her diet: ham sandwiches and coffee, no salmon or egg yolks. She realized her bones were starving. How Clara took action. The next day, she bought a bottle of vitamin D3 at the local pharmacy. 1,000 IU, as the article suggested. The pharmacist, an older woman with kind eyes, said, "Take it with breakfast, dear, with something fatty, avocado or nuts. It absorbs better." Clara followed her advice, adding half an avocado to her toast, which she'd once dismissed as too trendy. She also started taking 20-minute walks in the park, even if the sky was overcast. 2 weeks later, she noticed her steps felt firmer, her knees ached less. But that was just the first spark. The second rhythm was waiting. Second rhythm, the dance of muscles. Clara had always loved to dance. In her youth, she twirled at parties to Elvis, her dress flaring like petals. But now her legs felt leaden, and at night, cramps jolted her awake with a scream. That same article mentioned magnesium, a mineral that makes muscles dance instead of seizing up in spasms. Why is magnesium key? Magnesium is like a conductor for your muscles. It tells them when to contract and when to relax. Without it, they twitch like marionettes with tangled strings. A 2024 study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that 60% of older Americans don't get enough magnesium, leading to weakness and cramps. For Clara, it explained everything. Why her legs shook after an hour on her feet, why she felt tingling in her soles. Signs you might be lacking: cramps in your calves that sneak in at night like uninvited guests. Muscles that feel wooden, like your Pinocchio before he became real. Legs that tire so fast you avoid stairs. Sometimes a strange restlessness, like your legs want to run when you don't. Clara recalled one night when a cramp was so bad, she knocked over a lamp trying to stand. Her neighbor Marge heard the crash and rushed over with a warm towel, saying, "Try magnesium, honey." My mom swore by it. Clara decided not to wait. How Clara revived her muscles. She started with food. Every morning, she blended a smoothie with spinach, a banana, and a handful of almonds, magnesium-rich ingredients. At night, she allowed herself a square of dark chocolate, not just for the taste but as medicine. But food wasn't enough. On Marge's advice, she bought magnesium citrate, 300 milligrams, and took it before bed. Within a week, the cramps vanished like a bad dream. She also tried Epsom salt baths. Soaking her feet in warm water, she imagined her muscles coming alive, ready for a new dance. But the third rhythm was the most unexpected. Third rhythm, the melody of nerves. Clara never thought her legs could betray her. But in recent months, she noticed something odd. Her feet tingled, like ants were crawling over them. Sometimes she stumbled on flat ground, dropping books in the library. Her colleague, a young guy named Trevor, once caught her by the elbow and teased, "Miss Clara, you dancing at work?" She smiled, but inside fear grew. The article's final clue pointed to vitamin B12, the guardian of nerves, without which legs lose their connection to the brain. Why is B12 so vital? B12 is like the telephone line between your brain and legs. Without it, signals get lost, and you start feeling numbness or weakness. According to the Mayo Clinic, up to 20% of older Americans have a B12 deficiency, especially if they take heartburn or diabetes meds. For Clara, it was a revelation. She'd been on antacids for reflux for years. Signs you might be lacking: your legs feel heavy, like you're walking through sand. Your feet or toes go numb, as if you're wearing someone else's shoes. 72-year-old librarian's secret to strong legs will shock you. You lose balance, even standing still. Fatigue hits like a wave, even after 8 hours of sleep. Clara remembered nearly falling down the library stairs one day. Her heart pounded, not from pain, but from the horror that she might become a burden to her daughter in Portland. She decided to act. How Clara restored the connection. She started eating more eggs, not just boiled, but with greens and cheese like she loved as a kid. On weekends, she cooked salmon, remembering how her dad brought fish home from his trips. But her doctor, whom she saw that same week, said, "Clara, food might not be enough. With age, B12 is harder to absorb." He recommended sublingual drops, 1,000 micrograms daily. Clara followed through. feeling the tingling in her feet fade, her steps growing surer. A blood test a month later showed her B12 levels were back to normal. The final court. Clara stood at the library's entrance, watching the street where kids chased pigeons. Her legs no longer trembled. She felt not just stronger, she felt alive. 3 simple elements, calcium with vitamin D, magnesium, and B12, gave her back what she'd nearly lost: the freedom to move, to dance, to live. She knew it wasn't magic, but science available to every woman. Ladies, I've shared Clara's story, but it could be yours. What's holding you back from feeling the pulse beneath your feet? Drop a comment below, telling me which of these elements you might be missing. If this story inspired you, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. I share stories like this to help you live fully at any age. Want more tips for a vibrant life in your later years? Sign up for my free newsletter. Link in the description. See you next time. Stay strong, stay alive, and keep moving.